Welcome back. All right, continuing my look at prospects for the 2025 NHL entry draft, we're going to look at Victor Eklund. And if you're wondering, is he related? Yes, he is. He's related to William Eklund, the San Jose Sharks young forward. And Victor Eklund is listed as a left winger on some sites, right winger on others, so I put that he plays both. Sure. So he's a winger. He's 5'11", 181 centimeters for those in the metric community, and 170 pounds or 77 kilograms. Again, for those in the metric community. So Eklund's an interesting case. Everything I look at with Eklund tells me this guy should be higher in the draft than where he's listed. Elite Prospects has him at 9th. Hockey Prospect has him at 13th. Although their black book's coming out, that list that's going to change when their black book comes out. Bob McKenzie has him at 9th. Craig Button has him at 10th. He is listed at number 2 on NHL Central Scouting's European Skaters list, right behind his line mate, Frondell. Now, looking at his numbers in Djurgårdens, where he's playing with Frondell, playing on the Junior 20 team last season, 30 games, 7 goals, 18 assists, 25 points, and then playing in the Hockey Allsvenskan, 15 games, 1 goal, 3 assists, 4 points. Takes a huge jump this season, again with Hockey Allsvenskan, 42 games, 19 goals, 12 assists, 31 points. Best points totals put up by anybody 18 or under in that league since a guy named Elias Pettersson. At the World Juniors, 7 games, 2 goals, 4 assists, 6 points. So what's interesting to me is he is William's younger brother. He credits his younger brother for kind of making him the player that he is. He's a very hard worker and he's got a high compete level. And what he said in an interview with the NHL.com site was that basically his brother, beat him up a lot when they'd play street hockey. And so he learned that he's going to have to fight through that. And I think that's a great storyline to this. So one Eklund toughens up the other one, but he's seen as a very good forechecker and creates a lot of turnovers. He's a hard worker, really good compete level. So looking at the amount of reports that I did on this, almost everyone talks about how good a forechecker he is. It's very Panthers-esque. I've been writing forechecking on the board so much with the Florida Panthers. I'm like, okay, so Panther. But he can't be a Panther because they're not drafting anywhere near where he's going to be available. But I do wonder if he was a little bit taller and if he played down the middle, if we'd be talking about a top 5 pick. Centers always go earlier. Taller players usually go earlier. Victor Eklund could end up being a steal in this draft. Could end up being a huge steal if he can add a little bit of weight. Because he forechecks, because he plays a physical style of game, he's going to need to add some weight to play against National Hockey League players. If he was just pure skill player, I would say, sure, yeah, 170 pounds, you can make that transition out of the National Hockey League. But if he's going to play that physical game and forecheck and play in the corners, he's going to want to add a little bit of weight. So he plays well against larger opponents, which goes back to the discussion about his brother, right? Makes sense. Good passer and good offensive instincts. With the 19 goals, that tells you he can get those shots through. Played really well with Frondell, and kind of, from what I was reading, pushed to get Frondell on the same line with him. So they work well together. I don't see a situation where they would necessarily be drafted together. I don't think we're going to see those two get drafted by the same organization. Could they end up on the same team somewhere down the road? Sure, but at this point in time, not likely. He says he models his game after Matthew Tkachuk. So another Florida tie in there. And of course, what is Tkachuk known for? Forechecking, playing that gritty style of hockey. Tkachuk's offense at this point is just kind of a bonus. So for Eklund, if that's how he models his game, and from all the reports I was reading, yeah, this guy could end up being quite the player. And his game should translate really well to the NHL game. One thing I kept seeing too was it's translatable. There are players out there who put up a ton of points in juniors or a ton of points in European leagues, but their game doesn't translate well to the National Hockey League. Victor Eklund's game is seen as translating really well. And I would think with his older brother already having made that transition to the National Hockey League, he would have advice and he would definitely have that template for Victor to follow in order to reach the NHL and have some success as well. And as I mentioned, he did play with Frondell this season. We know he plays well with skilled players, but he does have that little bit of grit. I did see some reports, too, when I was doing the research on Frondell, with scouts saying they might like Eklund a little bit better than Frondell. And so there is some debate amongst some about which one the better of the 2 Euros is going to be out of this year's draft. So will a team take a chance with him? Well, we'll take a look at the teams that are drafting in and around the area where he'd be drafted. Number 9 is Buffalo. Number 10 is Anaheim. Number 11 is Pittsburgh. And number 12 is the Rangers. Of those teams, I think it'd be fun if he went to Anaheim, just because Anaheim and San Jose, of course, are rivals. And so seeing Eklund versus Eklund could be kind of fun in a hockey game. One team to keep an eye on in this year's draft. Columbus has both the 14th and the 20th draft picks. So there's always the possibility that if Columbus sees a player they like, and maybe Eklund's the type of player they'd like, good forechecker, good physical player, really hard worker, they could package those 2 picks and maybe move up and convince a team like Pittsburgh to move down a few spots in order that they could draft Eklund, should he fall that far in the draft. We do see that all the time. I have seen comments from people saying, the game's changed, size isn't a big deal anymore, but GMs and scouts will still discuss it, and that is still part of the discussion when it comes to prospects that you're going to draft. If you have guys who have a similar skill level, but one's 5 inches taller and 30 pounds bigger than the other, odds are you're going to take the bigger player, right? So Eklund may very well be a steal in this year's draft. We'll see where he ends up going. But I don't think he's slipping down to San Jose's number 32 pick, which is what we're looking at for San Jose potentially. Understanding that when the Stanley Cup is awarded, that team that wins that has the pick that's 32, and then wherever they traded it, right? But at any rate, it's going to be interesting to see where Eklund goes. I'm getting excited about this year's draft. I've seen all the discussions about how poor this draft is and how awful it is. But looking at the scouting reports, I think we have some really good players. Sure, there may not be all the sexy superstar players, but players like Eklund, teams that win have players like that. So let me know your thoughts in the comments section below as always. Hit like and subscribe in the event you may not have done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support as always. I will talk to you again soon.